NieR Replicant. Sadness, badness, and a whole lot of fucking running around. So, I just recently finished playing NieR Replicant, and I'm gonna start off positive first. So, I like the game. I recommend it to people if they enjoy RPGs or if they like the Square Enix type of games. Like, I even got my sister to play it already now, so that's pretty cool. And there's a lot to enjoy about the game, a lot that I enjoyed about the game personally. But there's one huge problem that I have with the game that is stopping me from getting ending D and ending E. So I've only made it up to ending C. But before I go into that and what's stopping me from the game, I'm gonna talk about some of the nice things first to begin with. So the story. The story is pretty simple. And just because it's simple doesn't mean that's bad. I really liked it actually. You play as an older brother who has to save his sister from this disease known as the Black Scrawl. But, you know, it's going to be hard because there's a whole bunch of monsters running in the world known as Shades. And that's pretty much it. Simply put, you fight baddies, save your sister, and that's the whole gist of it. But along the way of doing this, you're going to meet some friends who help you with your goal. And they've also got some interesting things going on about them, and together you guys learn new things, like what even is a shade, and what the deal is with this floating book that follows you around. But no, in all seriousness though, I thought the story was pretty cool. It really felt like some epic journey to save someone close to you, and you defeat some evil forces, so no complaints there. Alright, the characters. So this guy is funny. This girl is bad. And this guy is a book. So the side characters in the game, they were very intriguing. But to be honest though, I think that Kaine and Emil made for some great supporting characters. Like they each got their own backstories, and they also actually put in some work during the fights, so that's always good. And I also really like the dialogue that each of them had, and just like the way they were written. So Kaine is clearly shown as a loud-mouthed and no-filter type of character, but as the game progresses, you get to learn more about her and that she actually does care about the protagonist in some way. And Emil, he was really just like the innocence of the game, because, you know, he is just a child after all, and once he has that transformation into being a skeleton, it made me like his character even more, because now he was an even cooler kid with an even cooler skin. And for Vice, or like Grimoire Vice, honestly think he was the best character in the game. Like hands down. His line delivery, immaculate. His jokes, hitting. And I really just like the narration that he would give for all the events that happened in the game. Like he even gave some satirical narration on the stuff too. And just like, it made the game feel more alive in a way. Like, it made running in between places not so boring. And at first I thought he was going to be like some hostile relationship with the protagonist, but no, he actually ended up being a real one when he showed some concern for Yona. For the actual gameplay side of things, I thought it was fun. There's like some small variety of weapons to use, but there's also some magic that Grimoire Vice gives you, so that can lead to some creative play styles depending on the type of enemies that you encounter. I heard some people say that they don't like the combat just because it comes down to button mashing, and you know, that is partially true, but I think it really does just come down to your own ability on how you play and what you can think of to take down the baddies. So it's a skill issue. Like, there have been some encounters where I'm fighting some stockier enemies and I'm getting surrounded, so I just suspend some of them on spikes while I finish off the smaller ones, or even if there's a whole bunch of projectiles flying my way, I'll just put up those like spinning blades or whatever so that they don't interact with my combat. But you can honestly go about the combat feature or the combat mechanics however you feel. There's boar drifting. You can drift the boar. Enough said. Now for the quests of the game. Honestly didn't hate it. I did find them to be very annoying though, because it was a lot of running around, but I would just do some story missions in between to break up the monotony. But yeah, the side quests of the game were definitely some of the weaker stuff, and even before I started playing it, I saw a lot of reviews and comments about that, saying that the quests were bad. And they kind of are. Now for the most part, the boss fights in the game were pretty cool. They definitely feel like some epic encounters, and the lore behind all of them were really interesting to hear the first time around. But the only complaint that I really had about them is that they get some sort of hyper armor like at the start, and it's really just so that they can finish giving off their sadness speech or whatever like that. I get that the game wants to let the boss run their lines and do their little speech, but you know, I worked hard for my weapons. I worked hard to get crazily overpowered, so I think it's my right to blow them off the face of the earth before they could even get to their little sob story. Okay, so now the main issue of the game is that you need to do multiple playthroughs, and that is honestly what killed the fun and what's stopping me from getting ending D and E. And honestly, you know, if I got to ending D, I don't even know if I'd go through for ending E, because I don't feel like I'd want to go through that whole playthrough again. And after playing through ending B already, it just felt like a chore. Like I was forcing myself to go through the game and recollect all the artifact pieces, and it was all the same thing. That was the biggest problem. And you might be saying like, oh, but it's a little different each time because you learn new things. Well, you're right, but I feel like doing all the bosses again and going through the same playthrough and running around everywhere just for a tiny new cutscene or a little bit of lore is not worth it. For me at least. And that was my biggest issue. Doing all the running around for a drop of lore. That's why I feel finished with the game for where I stand at ending C. And to give credit where credit is due though, the game is based off of the original NieR from like 15 years ago. And I don't know any other game that has that concept of replaying it. So it's pretty sick, not gonna lie. And fortunately though, it does seem like they actually fixed this issue. This issue of the game being super repetitive, because NieR Automata still has that same replay feature, but it actually goes into greater variety rather than just tossing me like a breadcrumb of lore after I run all the way to the area. So yeah, overall, I really did enjoy the game, but you need to go through the whole second act of the game to get some slight variation. Just did not seem worth it to me. But let me know what y'all think. Do you guys think the playthroughs were good? And am I just being a brat? Or am I valid in my little rant here? But anyways, thanks for listening to my little rant, and yeah. Also the reading quest, man. Like in that Forest of Myth, that shit was ass.